folks. Welcome to my May day 27. Oh God, I'm always a day behind. It's day 28. Alrighty, so today pouring, raining day here in Perth, and I'm layering up a bit because although I'm not cold yet, I fear I probably will get cold. All these things you've seen before. Yeah, hi, my name's Simone. This channel is called Goblin Fruit because I have a business called Goblin Fruit, but this is mostly about what I sew for myself, whereas Goblin Fruit I do sewing for other people. Sorry about that. Get that out of the way. I got that quite concise, don't you think? I mean, the whole point with this Me Made May thing was that I would get better at talking to the computer, the phone, the whatever, the camera. See? It's all good. Words are good. And although it's kind of been isolation life and my brain is a little bit runny and the focus has not been great, I think I am getting better. I mean, I do have to do more concise videos. But these aren't about that, really. I am going to do some edits today, though. Did you see the edit I did yesterday? There was an edit yesterday. I know, I'm learning stuff. Alright, what am I wearing today? Okay, here they are. You've seen them before. So I've got underneath my giant shop bought scarf. This is Oraton. I used to work for them. Their wool scarves. They're very expensive, but oh, so nice. I did get this on sale with points from working from them, all that stuff. Okay, so this is the Donna Karan knit top that I'm about to show you, and underneath I've just got on a skivvy. Both of these fabrics are the same, just different colours, and I did get them from a wholesale supplier. They're a wool blend. I really, really like them. Unfortunately, that supplier is now charging, or has always charged, but does charge in US dollars, and the Aussie dollar to the US dollar, it's not nice at the moment. So I might not be getting much more of this in a rush. Okay, so yes, the top is Vogue patterns for Donna Karan. I've shown you before. Donna Karan for Vogue pattern, sorry. It's this one. So, this top here. I mean, obviously, my usual contention. That looks like a very narrow sleeve on her, doesn't it? What about this? What about this? No. Alright. So, the top is, and the skirt is, again, seen a million times before, this sort of side pocket pencil skirt. And then there's no zip in it. The pocket opens up with a button just so you can step into it. And it's this one, this vintage 80s Knitwit pattern. That go there. Vintage patterns are great, guys. And yeah, I just get them from charity shops. Although I have just subscribed to two Facebook pattern destash groups. Oh man, that's a way to waste a couple of hours going through all of that. It's good fun though. Alright, so today I am just going to do, I had two things by request to show how I cut out a pattern and to show how I do a full bust adjustment on a knit pattern. So I'm going to do those two things today with like the camera facing down on my big beautiful cutting table here. Alrighty, howdy folks. So the pattern that I'm going to do today, because I want to redo my skivvy pattern, which I talked about before, and I also talked about this pattern which I found at an op shop, which is McCalls M7561, which I think is probably out of date, but I am going to do as a top, the top half of this dress, or this dress actually with the long sleeves, but not the scoop neck, the high neck. So I picked this pattern originally because whoever owned it previously had already cut it out, and they'd done a really good job of cutting it out, and I presumed that they'd cut it out to the right size, which is a medium. And on the pattern here, here we go. Sizing for a medium is a 34 to 36 inch bust, and I have a 36 inch bust, so I thought that would be fine. But I've decided that that is not the fit that I want, and I'll show you how I decided that. Alrighty, so front and back pieces of the high neck. This is the sleeve, which we'll pop aside. I have actually ironed my pattern pieces, which I'll be perfectly honest, not something I normally do. But today I did it for you guys so that you could see it better, rather than listen to my, this is about right kind of approach. Alright, so these are the scoop back pieces. We don't need those either. So front and back. Now, how I've worked this out is I've gotten a ready-to-wear top. It's an old one of mine, but I've always really liked it. Which one's front? That one's the front. So I'm going to go with, it should be roughly the same size as this, but then I'm going to do a full bust adjustment because I know that this needs to be bigger here. I also know that the fabric I'm going to use has less stretch and a lot of grin through. Actually, it's got about the same stretch, but you see the grin through, so I want to definitely make sure it's bigger across the bust, so it doesn't stretch out across the bust too much. However this was cut, I think it was a light twist in it, or it's very old. See, look, I must have used some bleach to eat with. I don't know, but yeah, that was the death of this top. Alrighty, so front piece. As you can see, if that's halfway down the top about there, this guy in a medium is way out here, so way bigger than this top. And the shoulder, so the shoulder on this one is about this wide. And while like the width here sort of lines up a little slightly off, but not too bad, the medium shoulder is all the way out here. I mean, you got to think about seam allowance. As I said before, I tend to really only use at the maximum a 1 centimeter seam allowance. So that would be just there, which means I've still got 2 centimeters too long. So what I've decided is I actually want to do an extra small, but I am going to put on a whole heap more on the front for the full bust adjustment. My over bust, so across the top of my chest, is 35 inches. My bust is 36 inches. My under bust is 31 inches. So, I mean, from 35 to 36 is only a 1 inch difference, but I'm going to do a 2 inch full bust adjustment just to make sure that I have enough. And I just really don't like any pulling across the bust, and that won't create so much fabric that it's bagging. I don't think. We'll find out. It's always a bit of trial and error going on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll trace out the extra small, front and back, and the sleeve. I use this for tracing of patterns. Somebody is probably going to ask what it is. I don't know what it is. I found it at Salvation Army. No, Good Sammy's in Fremantle. A roll of it, probably 2 years ago. And it served me really well. It cost me a whole $2. So yeah, charity shops are awesome. So I have traced out the pieces for this pattern. This is the front, which I've actually just cut at the waistline. But on the back, I've drawn in where the waistline was marked on the pattern, and then just kind of fudged a little bit more length for this one, because this is just going to be a basic winter layering piece, so I just want a little bit more length. I mean, most people have more length in their tops anyway, but I am quite renowned for cutting my tops at the waist and then wearing lots of extremely high-waisted things, because I don't like tucking them in. But for winter, I do need that extra bit of warmth. Alright, so on the front piece, to do a full bust adjustment in a knit fabric, so there's no darts or anything on this piece because it's a knit. Now, kind of annoyingly, on this pattern, they didn't mark in where the bust apex was that they drafted it to. But on the other hand, your bust apex might be different, so it's kind of cool to work out, I guess, where it is. How I worked out mine was I sort of looked at myself in a knit top where the underarm was, and then measured against it to where my bust apex was. So on myself, just looking at myself in a skivvy type top, and went, okay, it's probably down about like 4 centimeters from that mark. Well, I said 3 centimeters, and this has got a 1 centimeter seam allowance, so now it's 4 centimeters. And then I drew the bust apex line across to work out the perpendicular line. Yeah, that's horizontal, right? Perpendicular. Yeah. I went, okay, how far apart, I guess, like are your breasts, are your nipples at the bust apex? So measure that across. I mean, don't need to be incredibly accurate. And then halve it, because that's our center front, and measure across to there, and draw your perpendicular line up, and that's what's going to be your bust apex. I said I wanted to add in, I've laid out the pieces, I've cut them. These 2 spots here, I've only cut as far as the seam allowance, because this would be the original pattern line. And so the seam allowance would then change according to the pattern line, rather than the other way around. So yeah, just cutting it in. I think I've just overcut this one slightly, but we'll guesstimate it a bit. Anyway, right, so cutting through those, but yeah, stopping at your seam allowances. You want to add, I want to add my inch in here. So normal sort of slash and spread type techniques on pattern making is you find out where you need more fabric or less fabric and put it in. Cut it out and put it in. Now I can move it out like this, but that changes the line of my center front, which means that I would have to put a seam here now because I've got a curve so that I can dart this bit out of here. We don't want to put a seam in there. We're cutting on fold, so we don't want to open up that way. So instead, we're going to open up this way to that side. Now you notice as I do that, things move up. So that's moving up now. And I now have from my waistline mark here, a difference down here of this much. I also now have a difference here. So I've added more into my waistline. I don't want to do that. I thought that the waist size on the pattern was pretty good. So I'm going to move this guy right back in again so he lines up, which is giving me even more of a difference here, but actually bringing this line down a little bit to here, which is kind of good. So yeah, because I've lost all this fabric and I still need it to come over the bust line, I do need to still have my waistline. Do it perpendicular, Simone, be good. There, where the original waistline was. But now I need to, this line has now changed. It's pattern weight, boop. I'll trace it off. Here's these guys. It's a bit awkward. Neckline. I mean, this doesn't have facings, this particular design. It's just a turnover edge, or I could do a bound edge, or put a binding on it. So you can pretty much change that neckline to whatever you want, as long as these two shoulder points meet up with the shoulder points behind. So that guy. For this line, I'm just going to smooth it a little bit, because see, we're coming into a bit of a point here, and I know that I have a little bit more flesh, I guess, on the underbust, so that's the nipple point there. So we still want that to come out just that bit further as those bits have moved around, and then bring this guy down to here. So just smoothing off this curve. So yeah, what I'm checking is, yes, is this line now about the same as it was originally? Okay, originally it was there. And then I want to get my back piece. Now this back piece I've already extended down for that extra length, but I want to walk it back in so that I know that my front is going to sew in the same length to my back. Right, so like so. Marking in notches. And so yeah, my back waistline is now like up there. So there's a difference. So on the pattern, we want to make sure that we're changing it back. And so any notches that we're matching up will be here. That I've moved this waistline around doesn't like really matter that much. You could put a curve on it, on like a proper tailored bodice block or something like that. Yes, you would start having curves on here, but you would also have darts. So not hugely important. But here I just want to make that length the same as that, and approximately that curve. So then when I sew them in, that'll be my notch around here, notches up around to here, armhole. Done. So yeah, that's my new front with FBA. Just make that perpendicular. I've plotted this all the way over here because I'm going to fold and cut it so it's double, so that I can just lay it out on the fabric and cut single rather than cutting on fold. It's a little bit more accurate, and I just kind of prefer it. If any of these patterns ever sort of went into production, I mean, this is copied off a commercial, so it wouldn't. But yeah, in production, nothing's cut on fold. It's all cut on the flat. This is cut out and laid out on my fabric. So how did I lay it out? Sometimes just a little bit of trial and error to work out what's going to be the most efficient use of the fabric. It is normal practice to lay patterns long ways down the length of the fabric, but on a stretch you just want to make sure that that is the stretchiest part, because some stretch fabrics are more stretchy in the other direction. Not very often, but sometimes they are. So just test your fabric. Your most stretch, you'll want to go around your body, not up and down. Up and down might cause the garment to kind of sag, whereas around will make it more comfortable. Alrighty, so I have folded this edge of the fabric to cut, because I've only cut my back piece on the fold. I haven't retraced it or anything to cut it on the flat. So yeah, the back piece is cut on the fold. So I folded this over and folded it over enough to get this sleeve in. I'm pretty happy with this use of fabric. You want to make sure when you fold it over that you're folding on, I guess, the grain. On a knit, it's not really the grain, but on knits, generally you can see there's like a sort of rib, tiny little rib design. You want to make sure that those little ribs are really, really straight. So your grain line here runs down those little ribs. Like that. So if you're finding it really hard to see, which sometimes I am, like on this navy side, it was pretty easy to see the ribs, but on the white side, so this is just folded on flat, so the fabric's only folded over that far, because I need 2 sleeves, I need a cut on fold back, and this is my flat front, and yeah, only using that much fabric, so very, very happy. If I wanted to do like a trim or something on the neckline, I could cut a band to make a neckline band here, just measuring that off. So I would have enough fabric to do it in, just to give you an estimate. This varies according to your size, obviously. That's 63 centimeters, 25 inches. So it's less than a meter, way less than a meter, but just over half a meter. If I wasn't doing a full sleeve, I'd get it out of 55 centimeters. If I was making it shorter, like a summer little tank, I could definitely get it out of half a meter. How wide is this fabric? It's probably another good question. 40, is it 40 plus 20, 60 inches? That'd be about right. Yeah, so that's a meter 50, 1.5 wide. Okay, gets your top. If you wanted to order fabric. What else can I say about this laying out the fabric? Oh yeah, sometimes it can be really hard to see the little ribs. And this one also looks like the cross grain sort of twists a little bit. If you were doing a woven and you're doing something like really fitted and perfect, you would want to try and true the fabric by stretching it out to stop the twist, which is quite common. But on stretch, don't need to worry about it too much, as long as we can get this long lengthwise line straight, which is there. So I do it with a ruler, the clear ruler that I can see through, and then line up the pattern on that line over the top. So yeah, just using the ruler can make it easier. Radio, so cutting out, I will just show you because I got a request. I cut with scissors, long lines, like long cuts are the best. So I probably should have used a few more pattern weights. Obviously I have got cutting mats down on my table here. So I could cut with a rotary cutter. I'm just used to using scissors. I have cut at times with a rotary cutter and I go through phases with it. But I think these cutting mats, even though they still look really good, maybe they're getting little indents in them, and now I'm getting little blank spots when I use a rotary cutter and I have to go back over it again to get that spot. But what else can I say about cutting? Let's use pattern weights or pins. I like pattern weights. You can use anything as pattern weights really. So yeah, this is 1 paperweight and 2 jars of bits and pieces. You know, I was eyeing off, they had at Pottery Barn, these little marble placeholders for like your dinner setting. But because they're marble, like they're just little kind of sugar cube sized pieces of marble, and marble's really heavy. I was like, oh, that would be such attractive pattern weights. And then I could just imagine myself dropping a piece of marble and, you know, smashing it everywhere. Or, you know, dropping it onto something that then broke. Yeah, I mean, like some people say they hate cutting. I actually find cutting a really lovely process. It's just meditative. But to make it easier, it is easier if you've got a cutting table like mine that is a good height. I'll do a little studio walkthrough, but this is 2 IKEA units back to back. So they are Hemnes, is possibly how you pronounce it. 4, 5, 6, 8 drawer, I don't know, tall boys, drawer units back to back. And I find them a really good height for me for cutting. So it's really very comfortable to cut on them, much better than cutting on the floor. Yeah, I can't tolerate that. That does not work for me at all. What else? Yeah, good sharp scissors is always handy. These I do get sharpened. I get them sharpened at the bootmaker. Marking in your notches. I mean, because I've got a white side to this fabric, using a Fix-On pen will be super easy to do it that way. If it was an all black fabric and I was feeling like being very accurate, I mean, sometimes if I know the edge isn't going to be seen, I'll just mark it in with a metallic pen. I have a metallic gold Sharpie, which has been very, very useful. And I do have some like proper white ink pens that you're supposed to use. I don't know what makes them better than anything else. I find them really annoying. They just don't come out. The ink just doesn't come out very smoothly all the time. So what else? Oh yeah, so if I was being really, really proper about it, I would do tailored stitches. So just get a really bright coloured thread and just do little tack stitches on those places rather than mark it. This tracing whatever it is quite handy because it doesn't slip and slide on the fabric, so you don't really need to weigh it down, whereas like the paper here does. I do keep all of these little scraps. I am working on making the filling for a poof. But there we go. That's them cut out. Oh, Fix-On pen. I'll show ya. So this guy, just a texter. So yeah, these come off when you iron them. Some fabrics do test. Inevitably, when I haven't tested a fabric, that'll be the fabric that it marks on. Because they do sometimes just leave a mark. But yeah, that's it. Alrighty, folks. So yeah, that was choosing a pattern size, tracing out the pattern, doing a full bust adjustment, and then laying out the pattern and cutting it on just a basic knit top. I'm really sorry if you've been hearing weird coughing, splutting noises. Frankie is unfortunately getting a little bit worse. Maybe it's the cold weather here today, but she's very coughy. Yeah, it's kind of like living with an old man who was a smoker his whole life. I'm not going to finish the top today. Hopefully I'll be able to do it tonight. I've got to get on to do some client work this afternoon, which I've totally been putting it off because it's like costings and technical stuff is so boring. On this top, I am going to do a Peter Pan collar, I think, and I've made a quick pattern piece for that using this book, which I have mentioned before. So yeah, making a Peter Pan collar. I followed the instructions very, very quickly, so we'll see how accurately that comes out. Probably the only thing I didn't mention on the laying out was to make sure if your pattern's directional, you've laid your pattern pieces out directionally. So yes, it is a directional pattern that goes up and down that way, and I have laid the pieces so they go up and down that way so that when it's on, it looks up and down. I mean, the only thing that you could really tell is my hand would be upside down on here, and well, maybe that little compassy thing. But yeah, better being that way. Also worth noting, your print may not be exactly on grain, and this one was a little bit off, because as they run it through the print machine, the fabric might be just a little bit off center. Or the creation of the print might have been a little off center. I've certainly done that myself before. You're aiming for a diagonal, but when you're creating a print, but it's just almost straight, almost diagonal, not really obvious. I mean, on a print like that, that would be very, very easy to do. Any questions? Please ask. If that was helpful, let me know. Yeah, like, subscribe. Maybe I'll continue this after May. I am working on this editing thing, I think. Oh, that's my tummy grumbling. I'm going to have lunch. Talk to you later, folks.